escalation clause. Yeah.
Well, that's 15 minutes. Next. I'm actually on a kick about the agreement of sale. I've never gotten such, person in here, such terrible agreements of sale. Like, does anybody understand them?
How we just did class.
A class,
I took that and then
a class is legal terms.
Yeah.
And then I got an offer from somebody that told me, I can't help but go down this path, that they keep missing out on bidding wars. And I called her after I read her agreement. I said, here's what your agreement of sale said to me. You know what, if we get the house, it's okay. I said, there wasn't one thing motivated about the agreement. I said, it looked like, you know what, we don't really care. There was nothing right about it.
Yeah, how we went over a little bit of that, because we talked about, even where we all, the G on page, whatever it is, retaining all sums. You know, he said, if you really want to make the offer strong, I said, well, I don't want my buyer to have the chance of being sued, so I don't care how strong.
I don't think that makes it strong, nobody gets that. I don't think that's
you know.
And who attended the agreement of sale class? And who knows anything about an agreement of sale? How come you didn't attend? How come the rest of you didn't attend, other than that Howard doesn't put it on Facebook? So number one document in our business is the agreement of sale. Number one, you have to understand it, and number two, you have to know how to write it, that it screams at the listing agent that your client actually wants to buy the property.
Is this what you want up first, the agreement of sale? Since you're already.
Now, we're gonna do, just tell me, so how did it, I know how to do the rest, how did you get
How did
this
I get
on?
here? I logged in.
No, it's not even that, it's from point one of turning it on. I know, there's a button in the back.
That's it. And I only hit the space bar, you can move screen.
No, turn it on and you get HDMI confusion.
things, but otherwise, like, overall, it's kind of,
And then from
but,
here,
you know, and we just discussed that was usually.
It is.
It
Done this in
really
class.
depends on how many offers I had. So it was good as the conversation wise.
And
Plus, again, like, I used to read the agreements and other processing,
And
but
drive.
going in,
All right, do we
everything
have,
was filled in, like the license
performance?
numbers and stuff like that.
Let's start
But I
with
didn't, I didn't
escalation
have to read it
clause.
as an agent, like, so it's different than now doing it and
I just
seeing
made
how it
like a whole
actually has to be
folder.
filled out.
Well, obviously you want a
Is that a
strong
list?
closet.
Yeah, it's like
Well,
this.
if,
I did, I did one
The only way to
deposit
do
of
that is
$5,000 with, like, that day, like, one day. She's like, oh, you're serious.
But, you know, that depends if the client's gonna do it too.
Exactly.
Just because you wanna write it that way doesn't mean the client's gonna be able to, you know, come
with it or
through
do
with
it,
it, yeah. I don't understand why people will do like 5 and then 2. Why not just do 7 at the initial, you know? A lot of people don't wanna do the second deposit until after the inspection's
So
over.
who knows anything about an agreement of sale? Who doesn't? Did we sign in? Do we have a sign in?
Yeah, it's going around.
Does everybody sign in? Anybody not sign in? I don't even know what it does for you, but.
At the end of the year, they see who came the most.
Oh, yeah, there's an award.
So I get an
right?
award. I won
There's
it.
an award.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, you got it, didn't you?
Yeah. And that's because I figure I can learn something every single class I go to. Doesn't matter what it is.
I thought
Or
she
you
was
can
here to
heckle.
heckle you.
All right, Miracle. You gotta get me started already. Lauren already told me how to sit in the back.
Okay, so the more I delve into real estate in the office, the more frustrating it is how little people understand the forms. So, first of all, attend classes, and secondly, ask questions. So you're not only filling out a form to protect your client, but you're filling out a form to get them in the deal. So it's how does it look to the listing agent, who has to take that piece of paper. So we don't get to meet you, and we don't get to meet your client, and we make a whole judgment call over the agreement of sale and all the paperwork that you give to us. So I got an agreement of sale in yesterday, it was all handwritten. I don't know why any agreement of sale would be handwritten right now. I don't know what would be the circumstances that it would have to be handwritten. You did it on your car, like I think one of the TV shows has done, like, there's just no reason. It's not like if you don't hand it in the next 10 minutes, you're not going to get the agreement. To me, that's just archaic. You know, get an iPad, do it on your phone, take them back to your office so you do it professionally. So not only did I get it in writing, she didn't even write her own agency relationship. I can understand that she doesn't know whether I'm a designated agent. She didn't know what she is. So the first page that I look at to meet this agent who's trying to purchase my property that's the introduction. It just makes me crazy.
Can you tell us whose office it was?
It was Remax Media. That you know, it doesn't. What's that going to change? Why?
Well,
Here,
no, I'm
we
just
offer you
wondering
everything.
because
Do you learn
They
it?
don't offer classes there, or why that she's.
We offer classes.
Right.
What did Howard have in his class? 3 people learning an agreement of sale?
Yeah, it's probably like 4 or 5, yeah.
5 people. I mean, the agreement of sale is the cornerstone of your whole reason you're here is to make money. I don't think you like grew up, well, wouldn't it be cool to tell people I'm a realtor? You heard there's a lot of money in real estate, you came in, you want to make money. And the only way to make money is to wine and dine the listing agent. And the only way you're going to do that, since you don't meet, is through this piece of paper that says to the listing agent, do they really want to get involved with you? Do I want to marry you for the next 3 months, or are you going to be like the biggest headache I ever met? Because I have, 3 offers on the property. So you want to be the winner. So that's why we stress paperwork so much. We have a class, how to make a good presentation. I think Nancy Olette does. We have so many classes, you got to take them. Don't think that you know it when this other class is going to teach you the nuances of it, and this other class is going to give another little opinion. Like, everything we're trying to do is to make you the winner. And the winner gets the money, and the winner gets, to be in the deal. Okay, so this I think is the most secret piece of paper that people don't know about. Aside from all the secrets I feel there is in an agreement of sale, which we'll get to too. I try to always talk about this in my class, because if you never heard of it, there's no reason you're going to know about it. So who doesn't know that there's something called an escalation clause in the class? Has everybody heard of it? You don't have to be afraid of me. I'll only pick on you for a minute. I let it go. And I don't know most people's names, so I won't hold it against you.
I did take a class with Sherry Nunez about making an offer in a multi-offer situation, so she touched on it. But the thing that I was confused about is the formula of how to get the bottom line offer number. So if we can somehow talk about that. Like, so say if your base price is $300,000, you do an escalation clause of $1,000 up to maybe $5,000. But in my case, I had also asked for a seller assist. And so the way I came up with my bottom line number was different than hers. So I don't know the order of how the formula is calculated.
That's interesting thought, because I don't
think
deal
it works off the net.
I don't deal with a lot of seller assist. And I'm sure, okay, where'd you go? I'm sure that
She
I-
assigned
there.
us our specific criteria, so I didn't want to ask for the
Let's
seller assist,
think
but I
about
had to, so then I didn't know what order to do
That's good.
the escalation before or
Right, I
after the
can't read
seller
it.
assist.
I would think,
That's good.
generally, I mean, don't forget, you should be having conversation. When I open my email and there's an offer in there, I'm like astounded that somebody didn't call to tell me that they were sending me an offer, particularly on a house that went under agreement. You know, people must think that you penned and you run to the computer and tell the computer. No, nothing pens, most homes don't pend on a weekend. And, you know, we have to get our paperwork together. It can be a couple days. It's not that it's a game. It's not that we're not telling people. You gotta get all your paperwork together. So first thing, and you have this fear that you're tipping your cards to the agent. So either you told them ahead of time and they call everybody they know, or they got it in person and called everybody they know. What's the difference? Agents do business the way they feel is right. If I get a great offer in, I'm not always gonna call and shop it because, you know, it's a whole, everything is a whole picture. So first, you always wanna call the agent and let them know your buyer has some interest. I call the minute I think my buyer has interest. I got in the car and I called the listing agent. We just left your listing and my buyer seems to have some interest. This is what we were thinking, you know, what, are you in the middle of negotiating anything? They need to close in 2 weeks, anything to generate, to start that conversation going. Then you know, is your disclosure online. You want to let them know who you are. And what's one of those things that you get, I get a call all the time from people, since I mostly am a listing agent, is my people have some interest. Can you call me if you get an offer in? No. I'm not going to call you if I get an offer in, because if I get the offer in that we're looking for and it has everything my seller wants, why would I call you and mess up what I already have? So if your buyer's interested in the property, I suggest you write an offer. Because I did. I had recently, it was an older person, I got it full price. Why did I need to play a game? I did pick totally the wrong agent. Which you don't always know up front. But on anybody, I had 2 other people that were interested, and they called me later and they said, didn't you see that we scheduled second showings? Yes, today's Monday. You did one on Wednesday, one on Thursday. Monday I got an offer and it said everything. That's how it went. So, you know, call and make conversation. Don't call and leave it hanging out there. Make it like you're about to. We're going to sit and discuss it so that they would want to call you because you're poised to write an offer. Not, we're going to hang out, call me if you get an offer.
If that offer that you got wasn't exactly what you wanted, would you possibly have called them?
Yeah, if it, you know, if it wasn't full price, had everything, I'd call everybody.
Okay.
But you don't always have to shop an offer. Sometimes it's just a good offer. Why not just close it? All right, so escalation clause. I would think that just my thoughts, that if you asked for 10,000 assist in your initial offer, and now you're trying to escalate it so that you don't get kicked out, it would be on those same terms. But the reason I started that was to call the agent. So you spoke to the agent, and the agent said, well, we have multiple offers. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Are any of them yours? Yes. Do I have a prayer? I mean, let's be honest. Who doesn't want to double pop it? So why not say it out loud? Are any of them your offers? I mean, I've told people, one of them's my buyer, to tell you the truth. I'm going to sell it to myself.
Some people are so secretive though.
Some
They
people
won't tell you
are, but
anything.
you're not going to know. And most people are secretive. For some reason, they feel that is this yours, or is that mine then?
Yeah.
I think some people think that there's like the real estate police that are going to find out that they had open conversations.
I tell them everything.
I don't know why. If I can get my seller more money, why didn't I do the right thing? But that's just my thoughts. But you're not going to know till you ask. Are any of them yours? And then, well, why? You know, yes, you're going to get all different reactions. Do you already have full price?
When I ask them questions, they're like offended. And I'm like, should I not ask? Nadine tells me to ask
It
everything.
is, just,
Happens all the
but
time.
sometimes you get friendly people, you know.
Yes.
I have great buyers. I tell people I have great buyers. I'm great to work with. I'm not going to be a headache. I'm going to get us to closing. Take that into consideration. I'm sure you have a lot of people that you're going to be sorry you got involved with. Anything that can give you an edge and make you seem more like a person and a little more knowledgeable. Okay, so the escalation clause, what we're hoping is that it's going to keep you in the game. There is no, so first thing you're telling your buyer is, if there's multiple offers, we're already coming in. It doesn't mean you should come in low. First of all, you want to be considered. And in order to stay in the race, if there's multiple offers, you wanted to come in at, you put your best foot forward to start with. And then, in case there's a bidding war buyer, this might keep you in the game. And what we're going to say to them is, we're offering you full price or little, whatever your price is. We're offering you $300, which is the price. Let's offer them their price or whatever you're thinking to do. And this is, how much would you spend for this house? I believe that this house could go up another 10, another 20,000. Usually if it's a house that is going to escalate and it's going to go above, it usually goes a lot above if it's that type of house, if it was priced to do that. So what you're offering is, okay, buyer, what's the most you would pay for this house? Well, I really wanted, I would go up to $315,000. So what you're saying is that the buyer's offer is increased so that the net price, so if you offered $300, I didn't know it said net price.
So that's the match and beat line, and then the purchase price is gonna be what you'd cap it
Right.
off on, which would be a little bit difficult with seller assist, because no matter what you write for a purchase price, this works off of the net. So if you write, say the house is $300,000, you're asking for $10,000 in seller assist, and said, we'll go up to $320,000 in a purchase price, you could still get beat out by somebody who's offering $312,000,
Right.
no assist. Do you know what I mean?
I think the assist part makes it a little more confusing.
It's kind of redundant, to be honest with you. If you're writing an offer with an escalation clause, with seller assist, it's gonna have to appraise the value. There's gotta be a conversation there where you have with your client, like, we can only do so much, this might not be the best form for you. Let's see, can we get a gift letter? Like, is there any way we can kick out some of the assist? Because that's really gonna be a deal breaker.
Yeah, I think that this is more of a non-assist, because you've already raised your price to get assist. I think this is more of a straight deal without seller assist, or maybe you want to change it and cross off the word net and just do purchase price. So there's two things to look at. Number one is that you're trying to keep your person in the race, and number two, that so many realtors are stupid. So, taking that into consideration, I think sometimes, they look at things and don't look at the whole picture of it. So if you crossed off net price, purchase price, so you offered $300, just to at least have a conversation. Not everybody's answering the phone. We all know that there's all types of realtors out there. So let's not go through the seller assist part of it. That makes life a little more complicated, because appraisal is such a big issue. So the moral of this story is, you offered $300, your buyer is willing to pay up to $320, and the next line is, they'll beat any offer that goes up to $320 by $1,000. Make that substantial too. To beat it by $500 isn't a big beat. There's many other considerations in there, and they do need to show you. I have used this, and you didn't always go to the max, because they didn't get that. Sometimes I got it only went up like $2,000, because that's all that the other offer was, and they have to show you the first page where they got it. But we're going to assume that you're asking, did everybody understand that? So you're putting in what your buyer's willing to go up to, and that they'll beat any bona fide offer by $1,000, so that the seller's going to get $1,000 over any other offer. But then you have to, what is this attached to? What does your agreement of sale look like? And we keep coming back to that. Just because you're willing to offer more money, if everything else in your agreement looks unmotivated, it's not going to match. So what does a motivated offer look like? A motivated offer has a great deposit. That is one of the most overlooked things in the business, is that people sit with their clients and have them give as little as possible. Because what? Think they need more spending money, like,
So they can back out easily.
right, so we're not in the business to not make a deal. If your agreement of sale looks like you're not gonna get to closing, what did you accomplish? Are you working for them? Are you their best friend when they didn't get that house? Because all you're gonna hear about is the same house that they didn't get. So, you should always have a good deposit. Like, $3,000 is never a deposit for anything but a dress. It's just not a deposit for something that costs hundreds of thousands. And what am I seeing lately? I'm seeing gorgeous deposits that are confusing because all they are is a beautiful deposit. So on a $300,000 sale, to have somebody give you $20,000 screams, we're not afraid. We know we're gonna get through the home inspection. We're not afraid to give you money. So number one is up your deposit, and don't start with 1,000. Don't put 1,000 down. This is not Macy's. You're not like putting something on layaway. You want to look like your person wants the house. Make your first deposit bigger, particularly if you're coming in low. You're coming in low because your buyer, it's not really their market. They're going a little more than they can afford, so they're looking at a house that's $320, and they tap at 3. Make everything else look gorgeous. What would be gorgeous? Like, you're a little out of your market. Waive your inspection. I don't usually tell people to do that, buyer, but you're really teetering in a price that is over your head. So if you want to be the one to get it, and we want to encourage the seller to sell it to you, what else can we give up? Give a great deposit to start, and you're looking at their money. So sometimes people are, you have seller assist and everything, they're very cash poor. So if they're cash poor and all they have is $15,000 and you gave 10, then you can say, well, we're giving the max of their money. But when I look at people's finances and I see they have $60,000 in the bank and they're offering me 5, would you care? I mean, on the house, the offer I got this morning, so on a $300,000 house, the moral of the story is, if the day before closing, the buyer said, you know what, I don't really want to move forward, what's $5,000? And then you have to tell your seller, and the seller says, I get to keep the deposit, $5,000, like, where is that a comfort level to anybody? So, number one is make your paperwork right. So another offer I got over the weekend, which was in-house, been in business for quite some time, had every agency relationship wrong. I was just astounded when I first saw it. We weren't designated agents, the company wasn't a dual agent, like, did you go to school? I mean, that's just so basic. You don't understand it. So the first page is your introduction. So that's how you're introducing yourself to the agent. That's the setup page. We look at it, we want to know who gave us the offer, and that's how we're meeting you. So learn about relationships. If you don't know about agency relationships, ask somebody so you fill that in right. You put all the information, go out of the way, get the license number. The second page, we had our deposits. Let's make it good. And I hate things that say, I don't know how people write it, 24 hours after the home inspection. I don't know, I don't like vague things. They just seem like, we have timelines. They just seem like you're going to push the timelines.
Are you talking about putting like a second deposit?
Second deposit,
We just discussed
home
this. Why didn't you do
inspection.
a second deposit? It's so, just put it all up front. You're gonna put the money out anyway.
I mean,
Well.
and if it does come with the inspection that it doesn't work out, you put your best foot forward, you're gonna get your money back in 30 days anyway. or
So you
20
know
days.
that there are people that fight. So I wouldn't promise that. So once did a deal with a lawyer and he just decided he was gonna fight. Did he have any rights? Don't matter. He just was gonna fight for his deposit. So if you're saying you can get your deposit back, there's a place in the agreement of sale that says you're not gonna get it back for 180 days. You need to change that.
No,
Yes.
always.
Yeah, change
Change it
that.
to 30 days.
There was something I was told why you wouldn't wanna do it 30.
And as long as you can show that the check has cleared, they will have to send it to you. Howard said, I think it's within 3 days.
They only have to send it to you if they signed off.
If it has
Don't make
cleared
that
your
presumption.
bank, if it has cleared your bank.
The
and then-
seller and buyer have to both sign off on that.
You mean
On
a
what, that
termination?
spot?
Termination.
On the,
Oh,
on
yeah.
termination.
So the
Yeah.
minute you send a termination letter, it's over. And then part 2 of it says now what's gonna happen with the money.
Right.
So when you send out a letter that we're terminating, they don't have to sign it. The minute it's in writing that you terminated, you are terminated. The next part of that paperwork says, how is that money being dispersed? And when the seller decides to be a pain in the neck and not sign that, then you're not gonna get your money back until whatever that time frame was. And I don't know, I've never tested that to see if on 30 days does the title company feel comfortable to just go by the agreement of sale.
So
I don't
the
really know.
lawyer thought he was a buyer?
He was
thought-
the seller.
Oh, he was the
He
seller.
just, but at that time, our agreement of sales defaulted to 360 days. So he just held them hostage.
But now, we had this question in Howard's class. I had to wait 30 days, and I had clients who put a significant deposit down and wanted to purchase another home. I got their bank account showing that the check had cleared. So I drove up to Doylestown, gave it to them, and they cut me a check the next day.
Who's that?
The brokerage. That
And
held
the
check.
seller signed off.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm saying, what if the seller didn't sign off? So I'm just saying,
That's a little ridiculous, though, that they would have that kind of.
ridiculous is not relevant.
Yeah, but that's, how can that be that somebody can hold your money for?
Because they want to punish you.
But once, if they don't sign,
Then it's your 30,
then
it's
after
whatever
30
you
days,
put.
the term.
Right, it's the term that you put in there.
Okay.
Okay, so you can protect yourself by putting.
Right, so the
You're
moral
right.
was, don't tell your clients definitively. There is no definitive, there's a should. Understand that title companies don't release money without 2 signatures. We should ask the title company, if the seller didn't sign and we wrote 30 days, and the 31st day, would you feel comfortable to release it? Let's remember to ask that to the title company. So everything you say, you're telling them that according to the agreement of sale, I'm always saying that to my clients, this is what they should do. But on the other hand, if they don't respect the agreement of sale, you can't throw it at them, you need a lawyer. Just because people agreed to do something, it's only a piece of paper, you can't enforce it because of the piece of paper, you need a lawyer to enforce the paper. Not everybody respects what they signed. Okay, so anyway, we have our escalation clause. Okay, we're going through the agreement of sale, which I'm gonna put up, which I just think is the #1 most important paperwork in real estate. And I think that if you haven't, who hasn't done a deal yet? Okay, so you wanna know this, you can't that's the first thing you wanna know. Because it just suddenly happens, and that's what we wanna be poised for. We wanna be poised that you met somebody that wants to buy a house, and you're ready, and this is ready. Where'd you go? Find my dot. Oh, because I was doing the escalation. Right?
You go to your buyer's docs, there's a copy.
No, but I put them on screen for myself. I put them somewhere, I had her throw them in. So I wouldn't have, there they are, so I wouldn't have to go to dot loop. Oh, I'm back here again, okay.
That's where she threw them in.
Oh, I thought I was,
I want to see Michael's folder.
Michael's folder. Little personal things to
I know.
blackmail me.
I know, that's all I want to say it.
So, also, before you know enough paperwork, make sure that you have everything to submit. Another part that I got, okay, where's the rest of my documents?
They're up, it's
They're
like
up.
28 pages, so if you go up to page 1, that'll be the start of the agreement there.
Okay, I am up. Am I up?
Put it on the, see it on.
Here, take that with you. No, I'm not trying to make it
That's
up.
a pain in the neck.
This whole thing is, I love to do this in class and just feel like a total idiot.
It's all right, you're safe. We
Let's
don't
see,
run
what else did I get in? It was such a bad offer, it just astounded me, and I told the agent, I'm not trying to
When
yell
do
at
they
you.
want an answer
Would
by?
you please stop by? The answer was okay. The deposit was terrible. The BFI.
Get
yes,
rid of this thing on the right.
There wasn't enough money. I said, you can't afford this house. Well, they got money from their family that was seasoned, meaning it had been in the bank for 2 months, so it could be used. Well, why isn't it written here? Well, they ran out of room. Where? How did they run out of room? You wrote money in the bank. Why isn't it there? I just didn't even, and I like to do in-house deals. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt from in-house, but it was scary.
Oh, that was from someone in here.
That was in-house deal. And then, okay, well, here's another pet peeve I have. Is your mortgage commitment date. Don't base it on when you're closing. So you write an offer today, and you're not closing till the end of August, and for some reason you feel that the mortgage commitment date should be 2 weeks out from closing, so that the seller can stress out for 2 months over whether they're getting a mortgage. It takes 30 to 40 days to get a mortgage, whether they're closing tomorrow or 6 months from now. So write your offer, like everything about it is that they want the house. So mortgage commitment date.
30 days.
Well, here's how you know the right mortgage commitment date. Hey, mortgage person, when can I get a mortgage? And I do that. So I get an offer in, and they write, 60 days, and they tell me, well, their mortgage guy is very busy. So after I tell them, get a new one, I call their mortgage person. Mortgage person, I just got an offer and you gave me a pre-approval. When can I get a commitment from you? 30 days. Give me a date. Okay, agent, just spoke to your mortgage person. This is the date we can get. That's one. And home inspection. Some people just have it in their head to write 15 days. Well, once again, my inspector is very busy. So find people that realize that you're in business and do business like you do. If my inspector was busy, he wouldn't be my inspector. So he knows if I call him, I want an inspection done, like you have 2-3 days to get me on your thing. And I just had that, and he said, well, I'm busy. I said, okay, talk to you later. And then he texted me, how's Thursday? Like, you're busy, I don't need you. Or we're not dating, like, I'm in business, and I expect you to find time for me. There's a lot of hours in the day, I'm not particular. So, no reason, so you extend to home, all these things that you think you're doing to protect your buyer, don't protect you to get to closing. So, yes, we sign a buyer agency contract, we have a fiduciary responsibility. At the end of the day, you were hired to get them a house, not to not get them a house. So tighten everything up. And I always tell people when we sit there, I say, some really smart people got together and wrote this agreement of sale. They had to know what they're doing. They said, this is the timeline, let's abide by their timeline. 10 days to do an inspection is plenty of time. I don't know why it's not enough time to get everything done. So I want you to think of these things. So I have this whole discussion in class, and then people graduate and come to our office, and it's like I never spoke to them. Not that I'm God, but like, okay, what is the reason? I don't mind, I'll always call an agent. You asked for 15 days for your home inspection. Why? If it's my inspector's too busy, I'll say, here's mine, that's ridiculous. If it's they're going to Florida for a week, fine. Give me a rhyme and reason and I can go for it. But the fact that you're a professional person that you depend on has no time for you, why are you using them? All right, so we were in the agreement of sale, which I think we beat up a lot. And many mortgage people want to see, I don't really like when I'm asked to do anything later that I should have done right the first place. To me, that's kind of like, why didn't I get it right? You need the addresses. They like to see the buyer's address. I get calls from mortgage companies. Well, you too lazy to fill that in? Fill it in. Buyer's address, seller's address, they want these things. Why do you have to get kicked back later? Why wasn't it just right? It's like handing in to, I saw somebody was putting that on Facebook, it's like handing in your deal when you get a kickback that you were missing something. Well, that should happen once. It shouldn't keep happening, that you're missing some paperwork, that you didn't sign some paperwork, that your broker fee wasn't listed here. Like, how many times you have to be told? You were told once. That shouldn't happen. You're gonna be told everything. There's so many things you're gonna be told. Each time you're told was that learning experience. Now move on to the next thing you're gonna get wrong. There's so many things to get wrong. So fill in all your paperwork and fill it in online and be neat. And know your relationships. All right, so we have that. Was there any other peripheral paperwork you wanted to go through? Or we were going to talk about those nasty home inspections. I think that's the hardest part of the deal, is a home inspection. You're going to sell the house, you're going to come up with a price, you're going to wait till closing, and that's not tentative. And then there's that home inspection. So, see, that's a little ADD. Can't help it. We'll do one form and I'll talk about it differently. All right, I think for the most part, we have this. Anybody have any agreement of sale questions? I mean, I know that's pretty blank. Next time that Howard teaches, this has to be taught by a broker, attend the class, and attend it a few times. When I started teaching school, I found out that so many things I had told people for 20 years that I made them up. Like, I was just shocked. I didn't know what the recovery fund was. I had a whole different explanation for many things that I had heard almost 25 years ago, and then I found out, wow. Every time I teach a class, I learn something new. So I think it's interesting that, you know, we're not sure, so we just say things. They certainly don't know what we're saying. Settlement date, you're going to look at a calendar. You're not going to inadvertently be settling on a Saturday because you looked at a calendar. Let's see, any other date, time is of the essence. And this is something that you have to scream at people when you're in a deal. All initials must be dated. I don't care if it was the same day that you wrote your agreement of sale. If there's a change, it has to be dated. Why? Because that's what our company requires. And the other agents, they're going to say, and every Keller Williams requires it. I've never heard of that. I get that all the time, which is amazing that people have been in business for so long. I don't really care if you heard of it. I don't get paid without it being dated. I need it dated, I need it dated. Because when people use DocuSign, DocuSign doesn't automatically date.
It doesn't?
You have to add it. Dot loop automatically dates. Dot loop. DocuSign is an additional feature.
But it also is when your executed agreement goes into force. The last date on there. Say that
All
there's
changes should be, that's the problem. It doesn't say must, doesn't say have, it says should.
Okay, so you have a change in the agreement of sale, and they've signed the next day and dated. When's the execution date?
Whatever your last date is.
Okay, so that's why it has to be dated.
Well, we know why, it doesn't mean that people are doing it. You're assuming, I think, so I always think and tell my seller that one of the biggest issues that we're gonna have is that 80% of the realtors have no idea what they're doing. Because they stepped in to do real estate, it's not their full-time job, they stepped in to sell their friend or family, and they didn't take the time to learn everything about it. So you're the one that has to make sure that everything's right, and in our office, every change needs to be dated, every single one. There is no skipping that. So tell them that in the beginning. And you'll have to tell it many, many times. And you have to fill in your zoning. So I have a lot of these things auto-filled. I'm not doing commercial. My zoning is already filled in. It says residential on every deal.
Oh, isn't that the R2?
R2D2?
Well,
Yeah,
because
yes,
it
it is.
changes sometimes, it's R2.
Yeah, but I don't think it matters. It's residential.
Okay.
I don't think that I'm not really sure, but I have that filled in as,
I do too, but what if it's mixed use? Would you change it?
yeah, I would change it if it's something weird. I haven't run into it. Included in the agreement. So don't forget that on Trend or Bright, it said that the washer dryer were included. And then you didn't write it here, so what happened? You didn't accept the offer that they were included. So this trumps everything. So if you didn't add the washer, dryer, and refrigerator here, even though it was offered to you, all those things that said included, you didn't write them here, they don't have to leave them for you. We said it's included if you want them. If you didn't write them, we're not leaving them.
Take pictures.
Take pictures,
I had them swap out,
did people swap down?
washer and dryer.
That's interesting.
Did you write the model number in this though? For
I
the
took
included?
pictures.
I think someone said, you write as seen on this date.
Where's
Yeah.
the
No
Cena?
monetary.
Well,
Where's
if
the
it's
thing?
on the internet, I guess if it's in their pictures. That's interesting.
Had a chandelier taken down too.
Well, chandeliers we've had. We've had chandeliers. Washer and dryer, I've never had anybody switch it out. I've had where we took them because they didn't accept them, but that's interesting. Take pictures of the washer and dryers.
Yeah, but I thought that if you just wrote washer and dryer here and not the model numbers, then they were just
It's any
filling
washer
the
and dryer.
requirement,
Any
is
washer
just
and
leaving the
dryer.
washer and dryer.
That's why I take pictures of them now.
Right,
They
as
can leave
seen.
any washer and dryer.
Yeah,
I
but
write
however,
as
if you
seen.
don't write the that's what Nadine's saying is like, so if you don't write as seen or the model number, just because you have pictures and you wrote washer or dryer,
Okay, but you're
doesn't
saying
mean that
as
they have
seen.
to. I'm not saying that. I would write the model number.
Okay.
So that you are very specific, so it's not open to interpretation. I think this is important too, just as like a sidebar, that if you are selling something with pools, anything with a pool or a spa, then it says pools, spas, and hot tubs, including covers and cleaning equipment. So, I think that personally, if I was selling something with a pool or a spa, I would also write that and include it, even though it says it already. Not so much for my clients, but just to make the sellers aware of that. Just like how Nadine said that like 80% of the people, you know,
Don't read it.
don't
Well, I
read
actually
it.
put the spa in there because I didn't realize it was.
Yeah.
And then I went back and was very careful about reading it.
Yeah.
Even though I had put the hot tub in the, in the inclusions, I didn't realize it was already in the
Well,
paragraph.
and people often, I have it now, all they wrote was pool equipment. Now, people start off feeling very friendly. As the deal goes on, you get through the home inspection, they stop being friendly. And then they don't feel like leaving everything that they were gonna leave. I mean, you should be enunciating, what is the pool equipment? Is there a cover? You know, I mean, there isn't any situation you haven't run into. You get there and the people say, where's the cover? We never said we had a cover. That's your assumption. So be specific here. I had once where the island, I always try to move the island. The island was custom made, but it wasn't attached. So they got there and the island was gone. It was a piece of furniture. So shake those islands. Listen, we all know whatever can happen is gonna happen. Mortgage contingency. All right, so this is another debate. Appraisal contingency. You're protected here. If you say that it has to appraise within 90% of value, then you don't also need an appraisal contingency. You just wrote it there. So once again, an appraisal contingency is something when I'm going to go into a bidding war, that's the first thing I'm going to kick out. I'm going to get somebody that's putting down enough money, how you doing, boss? That they put down enough money, which is more than 20%, then it doesn't have to appraise dollar for dollar.
Wasn't it, it's redundant, for sure.
It is redundant, and then once again, there's some agents that don't get it, so you didn't put in an appraisal contingency, so they're thinking like, oh wow, there's no appraisal contingency. So that's another thing, speaking of that, I did get an offer and it said 3.75 to 3.85. Well, like, that's absurd too. You have to give, you know, we used to give 2 points, which is interesting, but you have to give, you know,
Half at least.
it should be a half. It shouldn't be so tight. Just remember, what does that look like? Once again, everything that you're doing that you think protecting your buyer is not going to get them the deal. They look like they can't afford the house. I mean, if they can only, what is the reason for that? The reason is is if it's from 3.75 to 3.85, and the interest rate goes up to 3.9, the reason you were putting that in there is because if you redid closing costs for your seller, your buyer, and the rates went up, they could no longer afford it. Could they really not afford the house? I mean, would your buyer really at 3.7 not go up to 4%? Wouldn't they if they wanted the house? So why would you write it that closely? What you're saying is we are so tight in our ratios that if the rate goes up a little, they can't afford the house. That's what that means. That's what you said. Does everybody get that? Some way or other? Okay. So there are all the things, and you know that if you put your mortgage lender in there and you change it, you made a change to the agreement of sale. You need an addendum that they're no longer using XYZ, they're now using ABC. So anything that changes, I mean, you know, you get that, like you get a mortgage commitment, you're looking at it and you're going, okay, who's that mortgage person I'm getting a commitment from? Well, we changed. Well, you have an obligation to let the seller's agent know if you switch mortgage companies. Okay, and then we did our mortgage commitment date, which should be about 30 days. First of all, the mortgage companies also look at your commitment date. And they don't necessarily do their whole job until closer to that date. So what situation did you put yourself in? So if you gave this, if you're not closing for 90 days, and you're not going to get your mortgage commitment for 60 or 75 days, when you do implode, it'll be right before closing. Whereas if you do it within 30 days, they're going to have to get the appraisal, which they are obligated. It says in there that nobody should stand in their way, that they should be moving forward and getting an appraisal very quickly.
What, but isn't there a certain amount of time where you can't get it? Because I guess
You
it's
can't lock in
a
rates.
rate, that's it though.
You can only lock in rates within 60 days of closing. But that's not the same as them doing all their due diligence to get your mortgage commitment. And also, I've had where mortgage people tell me, you know, did you order the appraisal yet? No, I'm waiting to get through the home inspection. And who are you? Where do you have the right to say that? There isn't a mortgage person out there that has the right to dictate that they're waiting for you to get through the home inspection. I'm sorry, when did that become your job? Your job is to keep moving forward. So my goal, my thought is that's the only thing a buyer pays for is their appraisal. I want a buy-in from the buyer. I'm not doing all this work not to get to closing. So I want the mortgage commitment ordered quickly. And then they're going to take $475 from my client, and that's one more investment that my client made toward buying this house, not walking out on it. This isn't a tentative sale. You know, you bought the dress, now they're going to take it in. You can't return it, they're already working on it. Let's have them work on your house. You want to get to closing. So it does say in there that they are supposed to keep moving forward and they're not supposed to hold anything up. That's for the mortgage person. And also, don't forget, well, we didn't get that, we're going to get to inspections, that one of the things in the inspection period is insurance. You don't want to find out that you didn't look for insurance and you find out that they need flood insurance because they waited to 2 weeks before closing. And why didn't the seller know they didn't need flood insurance? They weren't holding back on you because they paid off their mortgage years ago and they redid their neighborhood and made it a flood zone. So they didn't know to tell you. They didn't go for another mortgage. They're not necessarily going to do that. They're not trying to withhold information. Only if they refied, they've lived there 30 years, only if they refied or did something with a mortgage or got new insurance would they find out that they now need flood insurance. If they just kept walking along and it was paid off, they're not going to necessarily know that to share that with your buyer. So within those 10 days you want them to do, because the home inspection went great and then a week before closing you find out they need flood insurance, which is another $150 a month, and they're furious. Well, they're not protected anymore. They had that 10-day window where they could terminate because of any of those reasons. Okay. Really isn't much else happening here. So you're doing your home inspections. Yes, another thing, I get every single inspection checked off. That's because you didn't know how to work dot loop. So it's easier to check off every one than to know that on one side you agreed, on the other side you put no one. So learn how to do dot loop, that you don't choose every inspection. It's public water, public sewer, why would you be testing the water? It's, the house was built 5 years ago, why are you looking for lead-based paint? So don't be lazy and don't be sloppy. And you're not sure about radon, put it in there. So on one hand, don't put in what's not necessary, and on the other hand, put in which is a maybe. So if they decided later they wanted to do radon, even though it's a ranch, I've had ranches that had radon, you didn't take away their rights. But don't give them rights to do things that aren't gonna happen. Okay, so I think, here your home inspection, they have 10 days, so you know the home inspection, they have 10 days to do it and to put it in writing what they need. So it's 10-5-2. 10 days, then within 5 days, your sellers are gonna reply. So you did your inspection within 2 days, and then you handed in on the 10th day because you wanted a really angry seller. So you did your inspection quickly, you have the answer, move forward. Don't just keep saying, well, we have 10 days. Well, what's your moral of your story? You jumped in to do your inspection right away. The seller's losing sleep. You get a lot more out of a seller when they're feeling good than when they start to get anxiety. So when you do a home inspection and you don't give your answer to the seller, each day is what's wrong.
And Nadine will call you every day until you give it to her.
Well, why are you building up anxiety? There's just no, you know, you want to look at this picture. There's other people really upset. They're going to feel a lot more generous keeping them happy than building it up that they're like peeking out. And then you give them the reply, and within a day you're calling, do you have an answer? Oh, I'm sorry, it took you 10 and we get 1. We have 5 days to do our own due diligence.
That's what I was gonna say, talk about the timeline.
Well, we use Folio in our office, so we send out the timeline the minute we go into a deal, and we have the agent accept it, so that we all agreed on our timeline. It fills everything in for you, and it says what our expectations are. This is when your mortgage is due, this is when your commitment is due, and all those things. You want to make sure, if you don't do that, write something. This is when this is due, so that you know that you and the agent are on the same page on your timelines. Let's see, anything else of relevance? Association docs,